Nakatutok pa rin kayo sa Kandidatoks, Negosyo, Trabaho at Kalusugan, the Presidential Series. Makakasama naman po natin si Ernie Abella, dating tagapagsalita ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Nagsilbi rin siyang Undersecretary ng Department of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for joining us. And so far, kamusta po ang kampanya? 2 buwan na lamang po ay mag-e-election na. How are you doing so far?
Nakakatuwa, no? Nakakatuwa. Kasi nagsimula tayo, bali, October 8, hindi naman tayo kakilala. Pero magmula po noon, bumubukas po yung mga pintuan at nakakatuwa dahil Cheryl, nakikita namin na may mga tao na, in a sense, undecided. A number of them are really undecided at meron po silang hinahanap at naniniwala tayo at certain stage pagkatugma yung ating pananaw. Mukhang naghahanap sila ng tunay na pagbabago at ang atin naman isang pananaw na isang bagong bayan. God willing, magkatugma po tayo and things are really opening. So, thank you for asking, but it's moving along very nicely.
Naintindihan ko po, iba ang inyong approach sa inyong pangangampanya. Well, first, nag-iisa ka. No po, solo flight ka, walang bise, walang senatorial slate, walang partido. Pero paano nyo po isinasagawa yung inyong kampanya? Paano kayo nag-iikot or you're concentrated more on social media?
Right now, ang ginawa natin, ang malakas nating ang pinaka-main vehicle natin, social media. On the other hand, marami din tayong nakokontakt through social media at saka yung ating networks. Marami pong bumubukas, no? We don't meet everybody, but we meet, let's say, with yung mga yung may mga influencers na may mga networks, and doon sila bumubukas. Like, for example, yesterday, I talked with one young man. Apparently, he has 300,000 people they can talk with. So, kumbaga, I talk with one person times 300,000.
Yes.
So, yun, ganon. Kasi nagbago na ang political landscape, Cheryl, and I'm sure you know that. Ang laking bagay, hindi lang na biglang nagbago ang ating style, kundi nagbago talaga hindi lang style, kundi ang paraan talaga nagbabago. And it works to advantage. You know what we do, ang ginagawa natin sa social media, tinatawag natin itong town halls. Kung saan, may isang grupo, let's say may contact tayo sa Pangasinan, sa Quezon, sa Bicol, nakikipag-usap tayo sa kanila, and then usually tinatanong natin sila, magbibigay ako ng opening statement, then they tell us, then they say, paano niyo po kami matutulungan? Ganito, ganyan. Diyan ko nga nakita kung gaano kalalim ang ating problema sa agrikultura, kung gaano kalalim ang ating problema sa kahirapan. And tandaan ko, ito po talaga nakita ko, Cheryl, no? Na ang problema talaga sa kahirapan ay hindi swerte. Some people, I was talking with somebody recently, sabi niya, destiny yan. No, it's not destiny. Poverty is the result of wrong policy.
Pag-usapan po natin, Sec, ang pinakamalaking hamon na kinaharap po ng hindi lamang ng ating bansa, but ng buong mundo, ang pandemya. COVID-19 pandemic. How would you assess po yung pagtugon ng ating pamahalaan dito sa pandemya? At if you were the president, would you do things differently?
Ang masasagot ko dyan, I believe they did the best according to their best lights. Ito yung ginawa nila dahil ito yung nakikita nila. Kanya-kanyang style, no? Different strokes, different folks. Different folks, different strokes. Pero siguro, I would do is, in this coming, God willing, pagpasok natin, it's a different administration, we would do a lot more of random testing. Kung titingnan natin kung saan talaga, yung random testings, but we would do a lot of that, but we would do a lot of free mass testing also. Kumbaga, we'll make it available. And then, pangalawa, yung contact tracing, and pangatlo, we would consider not general lockdown, but we would consider more yung tinatawag na precision lockdowns. Na kung saan, kunyari saan tumaas talaga ang mga kaso, doon tayo magla-lockdown. Pero hindi cases lang na, na-COVID to, na-COVID. No. We would like to test for adverse reactions and then also mortality rates. Kung saan na mataas na mortality, then that means seryoso talaga ron. So otherwise, we can have, kasi 99% ng tao natin, Cheryl, mga micro, small, and medium enterprises, and they need to, kailangan makipagsalamuha, paano sila mamubuhay? So, kailangan, we want them, we encourage them to go out, we continue to support their health issues, no? But we would also protect them by making sure that we're properly testing as much as possible.
Kadalasan po maririnig natin pagdating sa recovery plans or sa pagtugon sa pandemic, yung vaccination program. I didn't hear that from you. Is it because you don't believe in vaccination? Dahil po, kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, ay hindi po kayo bakunado laban sa COVID-19?
But Cheryl, the last vaccine I had was when we went to Egypt. I had the anti-yellow fever vaccine. So I'm not anti-vaccine.
Okay.
Pero we are kumbaga, we're very cautious. I'm very cautious about kasi ganito, no? While there are risks, there should be choice. Yun ang paniwala ko. Habang may risko, dapat may choice. So doon ako tumatayo. No, we're not anti-vaccine, but we're anti-mandatory vaccine. It must be based on evidence and scientific facts. Kumaga, we need to really revisit the whole thing. But on the other hand, I understand where people are coming from. But I believe na manageable siya if we are able to do what I said earlier, mass testing, free mass testing, tracing, and then of course yung precision lockdown.
Ano po ang naging inyong obserbasyon at kung kayo po ay palarin bilang maging Pangulo, paano nyo aayusin ang ating healthcare system?
I would like to approach our running of the government parang in an entrepreneurial manner. I would like 4 bottom lines. Hindi lang yung GDP, we'd like to start with number 1, people, planet, profit or GDP, and purpose. Ano ba talaga yung dapat bigyan natin pansin talaga? Number 1, yung well-being ng tao. Na make sure na, kumbaga, siguraduhin natin na yung kaayusan ng buhay ng tao ay bibigyan pansin natin. So, unahin talaga natin what is best for them para so that they can go on everyday lives. Imbis na naka-lock in sila, imbis na nandun na sila sa isang lugar na, kumbaga, they're already filled with fear, hindi pa sila makalabas, gutom, hirap, walang pera. So I would really go by, unahin natin yung people, planet, and then make sure that whatever we do does not hurt people. Number 3, of course, we need the gross domestic products, but let us make sure that ordinary people hindi nawawala, patuloy-tuloy sila sa kanilang kasama sa pagkita. And then number 4, purpose. Ano ba ang purpose ng isang bayan? I believe ang purpose ng bayan is number 1, to survive, and number 2, to thrive. Dapat patuloy tayo at dapat lumago. Isa niyan is of course, suportahan natin yung economic growth ng tao, but also make sure na yung health concerns are properly addressed.
Paano nyo po, ano yung pinaka nakikita nyong malaking problema sa health system po natin?
Nakita naman natin ang problema niya, laging bumabalik doon yung corruption. So we should be able to address that and be able to make sure that dapat na yung pangangailangan ng tao, financially dapat natutugunan. But the other thing that I'd like to emphasize, na dapat yung health system natin should address yung mga social needs ng tao. Unang-una, for example, naniniwala ako, Cheryl, na the first 1,000 days ng bata, first 1,000 days ng bata, dapat napapakain yung bata, proper nutrition, and all that. Why? Because kung hindi sila mapakain, they will be subject to stunting. And alam mo, ang laki ng ating incidence of stunting, especially in the Philippines, but especially dun sa Mindanao area, kung saan ang pinakamataas na incidence ng stunting. So, our health system should be able to attend to that. Pangalawa, we'd like our health system to be, as a social safety net, should be able to address the needs of our, yung tinatawag kong golden years, yung mga seniors natin. Dapat, hindi na sila natakot kung may mangyari ba sila, may pera ba sila, o kung yung mga gamot nila, dapat matutugunan yon. So, ang health system natin should be able to provide yung social safety nets na kailangan, whether in the beginning or at the end of life. Yun, importante yun. But definitely, dapat yung, ideally, matugunan talaga yung management natin finances so that there would always be, hindi umaangal ang mga hospital, hindi umaangal ang hindi sila nababayaran, hindi dumarating yung insurance, dapat ma-address yan. And the best way would be, dapat we need some, quote-unquote, a financial manager to handle the health system.
Speaking of hospitals and our healthcare workers, sa datos po ng Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines o PHAPI, nasa 40% po ng mga Pinoy nurses sa mga pribadong ospital ang nag-resign noong 2020. Sakaling pala rin po kayong manalo sa 2022, Sec. Ernie, ano po yung mga plano nyo para protektahan at bigyan po ng sapat na benepisyo ang ating mga healthcare workers, especially our nurses?
Right. And alam natin na maraming umaalis. Maraming umaalis. Bakit sila umaalis? Because mukhang hindi sapat dito. Hindi sapat ang let's say, salaries and sweldo, hindi talaga sapat. So what we would like to do is basically, kung pwede, i-increase of course yung jobs, and we would like to be able to increase our financial support to our, for example, health workers. Ang isang nakikita ko dyan is this. Alam nyo, Cheryl, one of the things pala that other countries have been able to do and successfully is to develop a sovereign wealth fund. No, yung sovereign wealth fund. Yung sovereign wealth fund, tatanong ka, saan naman magagaling yan? Of course, no, there is a wide menu of things that we can source our funding for. Pero ang isa talaga, isang kaso, we found out that, alam mo, there's a tendency in government to underspend, no? O yung tinatawag na lack of absorptive capacity. Like for example, apparently the last 2 years, meron mga something like 100 billion pesos na hindi
nagasta.
Hindi nagasta. If we took that and managed it and invested it properly and responsibly, kasi kunin natin yon para hindi rin naman siya kasi lumulutang yan. Ito yung perang hindi nagasto na isinuli sa treasury. So wala siya mga accounting entries na So if we can take that and invest that, we could put it in two things, Cheryl. Number one is the social safety nets. Yung mga, for example, to be able to give ayuda, yung sufficient ayuda. Kasi yung ayuda natin, pinag-uusapan natin, hindi sapat eh. Yun naman ang laging angal, hindi sapat. Kulang lagi. So hindi talaga ayuda yon. Medyo konting tilamsik, pero kailangan talaga nan. And the other one is we need also, for example, enough capital to invest in industries. We would like to invest more, for example, in healthcare, mga healthcare facilities, kung ano-ano. So, kumbaga, our sovereign wealth fund would go to either social safety nets and or capitalization for industries, let's say the health industry. We'd like, so that, for example, yung tanong mo, we can employ them properly. And yung sufficiently, yung hindi yung kailangan sila umalis.
Okay, sa pagbabalik po ng Candidatox, marami pa tayong isyong pag-uusapan kasama si Presidential Candidate Ernie Abella. Diyan lamang po kayo. Nagbabalik ang Candidatox, Negosyo, Trabaho at Kalusugan, The Presidential Series. Kasama pa rin po natin si Presidential Candidate at dating Palace Spokesperson Ernesto Abella. At sa pagkakataong pong ito, Sec. Ernie, pag-uusapan naman natin ngayon ang mga pagsubok na kinahaharap po ng mga negosyante ngayong pandemya. Isa po ito sa mga pinaka-importanteng sektor, lalo na ang micro, small at medium entrepreneurs na bumubuo po sa 99.5% ng mga negosyo sa bansa. At sa parting ito ng programa, may makakasama po tayong mga miyembro ng Business Community Sec. Narito po kasama natin si Dan Lachica para irepresenta ang pribadong sektor at si Jemarie Enderio para naman po sa MSMEs. Unahin na po natin ang tanong ni Dan Lachica. Dan, you may ask your question.
Okay, maraming salamat, Cheryl, at magandang hapon po, Presidential Candidate Ernie. Ang tanong ko po ay nauugnay sa foreign direct investments or FDIs. On one hand, ang nababalita is nag-improve na yung ating FDIs in 2021 compared to 2020. But the reality is we are still significantly much lower than Vietnam at other ASEAN countries in the neighborhood of about 7 to 12% lang ng kanilang FDIs. Lalong-lalo na sa electronics manufacturing, mostly because of ating high operating costs such as power, logistics, water, and even labor, without the offsetting incentives Kasi nga, yung nagkaroon tayo ng incentives rationalization. Maganda naman po yung create, yung pagbawas ng corporate income tax. Yun lang pong incentives rationalization not offset the high operating cost. With this reality at saka napakababang FDIs na nakukuha ng ating bansa, paano niyo po kaya malulutas itong suliranin na to? Maraming salamat po.
Okay. Gusto kasi talaga natin tutukan ang agricultural industry, na kung saan gusto natin gumawa ng isang ecosystem, no? An ecosystem that includes number one, entrepreneurs, not entrepreneurs, research and development. We want to include, gusto natin idikit sa universities, gusto din natin idikit sa mga manufacturers, gusto din natin idikit, let's say, sa mga gumagawa ng mga pataba, gusto natin idikit sa gumagawa ng mga new breed na mga punla, gusto natin idikit doon. And then secondly also, gusto natin idikit yan sa yung ating mga like for example, ating mga traders, no? Not traders. For example, we want to be able to make sure na yung ating mga roads, for example, para kanino ba yung mga roads na yan? Kadalasan mga trader lang ang dumadaan, no? But we want to be able to make available also to them yung tinatawag natin agricultural community centers, na kung saan they can avail of mga farm tractors, they can avail of transportation, post-harvest facilities, ganon. Tapos they can also avail of, let's say, ang tawag nito, yung manufacturing, canning, and all that. Tsaka also, gusto din natin dedicate yung ating agricultural into yung tourism. In other words, we're building a entire ecosystem na kung saan pwedeng pumasok yung ating micro, small, and medium enterprises. I know that aside from yung ating mga micro, small, and medium enterprise in their own fields, we'd like to be able to give now a new playing field na kung saan ang mga MSMEs ay pwede talagang sumali. They can, for example, kung ano yung mga pwedeng gumawa kasi kung ano connected with agriculture. Like for example, kunyari yung mga tanim-tanim, yung mga yung skincare, yung let's say great skin, no? So we can also include yung mga gustong gumawa ng ganyan, yung mga gumawa ng kandila. In other words, by pushing agriculture to become a mega industry, binibigyan natin ng puwang ang mga micro, small, and medium enterprises to be able to engage more fully in this so that to full advantage. Not necessarily dependent on FDIs immediately, but government can give support, give them access to financing, give them access to banking, give them access, and kumbaga, tutulungan talaga to build up. In other words, hindi lang basta ayuda-ayuda, talagang bibigyan talaga natin ng support along these lines.
Ngayon naman po, pakinggan natin, Sir Ernie, ang tanong ni Jemarie Enderio representing the MSMEs.
Sige.
Good afternoon po, Ma'am Cheryl. Good afternoon, Sir Ernesto Abelia. Ako po si Jemarie Enderio at ang pamilya ko po ay galing sa sektor ng mga magsasaka at ito po yung aming ikinabubuhay. Ito po yung aking tanong. Ang mga kasalukuyang hamon na humahadlang para sa pag-unlad ng mga magsasaka at tulad po namin ay ang mekanisasyon para sa sakahan, hindi sapat na patubig, limitadong pag-access sa pautang at insurance sa agrikultura. Kung kayo po yung susunod na magiging pangulo ng ating bansa, papaano niyo po haharapin at lulutasin ang mga hamong ito sa agrikultura? Yun lang po.
Salamat, no?
Thank you, Jem.
Thank you, Jem. Like I said, like I just explained, no? Ang gagawin talaga natin ay gumagawa talaga tayo ng agricultural ecosystem na kung saan konektado talaga lahat. Including, katulad ng sinabi ni Jem, yung for example, yung mga patubig, yung mga, mga farm implements, mechanisms. We will make that available. Talagang bubuhusan natin. Yun ang talagang bubuhusan natin para, number one, tataas ang revenue sa rural area. Pangalawa, talagang may mga employment, mabalik ang mga bata. Sabi nga ni Cherry Atilano, yung isang one of these advocates of agriculture, sabi niya, to make agriculture sexy again. You know, kasi magka nawawala. But We want the next generation, especially yung mga anak ng mga magsasaka, gusto natin malaman nila na susuportahan talaga natin for the next 6 years and ideally, God willing, ilalatag natin so that yung administrasyon for the next 2-3 administrations na talaga magiging attractive sa kanila, na talagang suportahan ang agrikultura. Kasi number one, you are developing the agriculture. You know, strange. We're an archipelagic nation, pero wala tayong ang baba ng agriculture natin. We import rice, we import fish. So, tutukan talaga natin yan, and it will be to the advantage of our people. That really is our comparative advantage, plus the youth. So, we would like to, in fact, encourage the youth, kasi ididikit natin to agriculture sa, sa digital economy. To the knowledge industry, gusto natin palawakin. And this is where we can involve everybody, especially the young people, the next generation. Gusto natin masali sila dyan.
Sek, puntahan po natin itong budget. Okay. 2022 budget. Ano pong mga sektor ang gagawin yung prioridad? Pero mukhang dun po sa ating pag-uusap ay isa ng makikinabang dyan ang agriculture. Pero saan-saan pong, ano po yung magiging priority nyo? Paano nyo po maaabot ang balancing, ngunit sapat na paglaan po ng bondo sa bawat sektor?
Of course, itutuloy natin yung itutuloy natin yung mga 10-point socio-economic agenda ng current administration along that line, itutuloy natin. Pero meron tayong bibigyan tugon. Number one, of course, yung agriculture. Pangalawa, yung digital economy. Pangatlo, yung, ang tawag nito, yung domestic tourism. And of course, the creative aspects, the creative industry. We can actually strengthen our soft power. Itong cultural diplomacy natin, ang bango kaya ng Pilipino. Ang bango ng kanyang appeal, ang ganda ng appeal niya. And we can do this to our advantage, to maximum advantage. So that's one of the areas we'd like to pour money in, yung ating arts and entertainment, especially the culture. So we'd like to really push culture because that's where we are great at.
And ito po yung mga nakikita nyong solusyon para matulungan po ang ating MSMEs, dahil pag nag-uusapan po natin ang mga negosyante, yun nga po, nasa 99.5% ay mga MSMEs or talagang mga maliliit na negosyante.
Tama. And like for example, katulad ng kunyari, we push the creative arts. Pwede naman sila, hindi ba, when you push the creative arts, may pananamit, may mga sapatos, o may mga music. So kumbaga, the whole aspect, pwede, you can fit in We can just all shift, magkaroon tayo ng mga gigs so that they can actually participate in this whole enterprise of rebuilding the Philippine economy.
Pagpapatuloy po natin ang ating pakikipag-usap kay Sec Ernie. Huwag po kayong bibitiw, magbabalik pa ang Candidatox kasama si Presidential Candidate Ernesto Abella. Nagbabalik ang Candidatox, Negosyo, Trabaho at Kalusugan, the Presidential Series. Kasama pa rin natin si Presidential Candidate Ernesto Abella para ilatag ang kanyang mga plano sakaling pala rin sa 2022 elections. Dito po sa ating huling bahagi ng programa, mga katanungan po ito mula sa ating mga netizens. Sec. Ito po, may mga institusyon o organisasyon na naglalabas ng mga survey para malaman po sino ang iboboto ng mga tao sa presidente sa darating na halalan. Kapag titingnan po, Sec Ernie, sa mga surveys na ito, madalas ay hindi po kayo kasama doon sa top 5 preferences ng mga sumasagot sa survey. Nakakaapekto daw po ba ito sa inyo bilang kandidato o sa inyong kampanya? At naniniwala daw ho ba kayo dito sa mga polls na ito?
Actually, hindi. No, hindi ako naapekto, Kasi unang-una, nakita naman natin na ang alam natin kasi na usually these are commissioned, Mga commissioned to mga studies na to. So it doesn't really bother me kasi usually depende sa pagtanong mo ng questions, Doon nagbabago yung sagot. But aside from that kasi, we have also found out na, for example, in the recent events, as recent events have shown, actually, kunya sasabihin nila, ganito ka lang. Pero kung titingnan mo yung isang, let's say, one recent show that we were on, it had 14 million views. You know, and it was all positive. Ang daming comments. Sabi ko, pero kung titingnan mo yung ano, pero by the way, yung nakita naming latest polls was before this particular debate. So,
Yes.
hindi talaga siya, it doesn't count. So, ang sinasabi ko, marami talagang paraan kasi na makukuha mo ang pulso ng tao. So it doesn't really bother me yung mga ganong klase na mga... Actually, sa pagkakaalam ko kasi, itong mga surveys are really done supposed to be for the private consumption of the candidates para maintindihan lang ano dapat nilang gawin. So, I understand the value of having a survey, pero technically, para alam mo dapat mong ginagawa.
Bilang dating tagapagsalita raw po ni Pangulong Duterte, may mga pagkakataon din daw ho ba kayo na hindi ka sumasang-ayon sa kanyang mga hakbang? I mean, you served as the spokesperson for over a year, no po? More than a year for President Duterte.
No, ganito kasi yung Cheryl, no? Alam ko yung kanyang pananaw. I know his big story. I know his big picture. So yun ang pinaka-North Star ko. Kung may pangyayari, dapat kong i-explain. Lagi kong fine-frame dun sa North Star na yon, which is, number one, comfortable life for all. Number two, yung orderly communities like no crime, no corruption, no illegal drugs. Pangatlo, yung peaceful society. Yan yung internal peace, external, yung terrorism, addressing that. So kung ano man yung mga issue, lagi ko na-frame doon. So wala akong problema.
At you think you were able to do that job well, na naging effective spokesperson po kayo?
I'll share you a secret. No, actually may mandato sa akin si Presidente. Sabi niya, ako palaaway, hindi ka pwedeng palaaway. So, yan ang ginawa ko. Hindi ako nakikipag-away. So kung ganon, based on the mandate, mukhang nagampanan ko naman yung trabaho ko.
And siguro po sa huling bahagi po ditong ating programa ay may isa po kaming tanong para po sa lahat ng ating kandidato, Sec. Ernie, and we'll give you time to answer this. Ano ang mga prioridad ninyong mga programa o plataforma sa unang 100 araw ng Administrasyong Abella?
Okay. May ibibigay ko sa yung pananaw. No? I'll give you. Nakita ko in the beginning, like I shared in the beginning, ang social situation natin is this, na ang laki na agwat sa mahirap at mayaman, mukhang nawala ang tiwala sa gobyerno, at mukhang nawala din ang pagmamahal sa bayan. Three things, no? Kasi pag pinag-uusapan natin itong mga bagay na ito, siya rin ang magiging pundasyon ng ating pagsikap, the way we do, the way we work, the way we live, will be based on these three things, no? So, para ma-address yan, within the first 100 days, may ang plano talaga natin gawin is to be able to set up, number one, a stronger civil society, yung patas na lipunan, yan tawag natin, patas na lipunan, na kung saan ang gobyerno at ang malalaking negosyo na nagsasama, kadalasan, siyempre nagtitilt yan towards the favor of the big business. Really big. I'm not talking about MSMEs. I'm talking about really big business. So dapat siguro kailangan siyang ma-rebalance. For example, by including civil society. Ano bang civil society? Ito yung mga NGO, mga women's groups, ito yung mga prayer groups, ito yung Kiwanis, ito yung ordinaryong mamamayan na kung saan sumasali sila, lumalahok sila sa lokal na pamamahala. Kasi sabi sa local government code, dapat may 25% na members of the community ang nagko-comprise doon sa local na pamamahala. Anong gagawin nila? They look after law enforcement, health, they look after education, they look after yung bids and awards para tinitingnan nila. Bakit natin sila sinasali? Sinasali natin sila so that maantabayan na ng corruption, incompetence, yung mga tipong mga ganong klase mga problema na usually sinasabi nila, how do you address corruption? Number one, we want to challenge civil society, local, ordinary citizens, sumali kayo. At sumali tayo, ibuuhin natin yung bayan. Pangalawa, yung economically, we want to be able to address the economic, shorten the gap. Paano yan? Number one, iangat natin yung 23 to 26 million people out of poverty, especially yung 12.5 million people na natutulog na gutom. Ideally, Cheryl, at the end of 6 years, wala nang gutom. Yun ang ating plano. Because I believe, aside from an economic goals, we have a moral obligation to these people. Kasama natin yan. Hindi sila statistics eh. Tao yan, may pangalan. These are fathers and mothers, mga anak, no? So dapat maitaas natin yan. And we want to do this through the through agriculture, digital economy, through tourism, through arts and entertainment, through education and research. We want to be able to do that. The other one, of course, is national security. National security, both internal and external. Which brings me to the third pillar, Cheryl, and that is what you call matatag na bayan. Matatag na bayan, meaning to say just a resilient society, a resilient nation. How do we do that? Ang pinakahaligi talaga ng isang matatag na bayan is yung kanyang kabataan, yung kanyang tao. And we would like to set up, Cheryl, this really excites me. It's called the National Volunteer Corps, na kung saan i-challenge natin ang mga ages 18 to 35 na magbigay ng 1 o 2 taon ng kanilang buhay to become volunteers. Anong gagawin nila? Sali tayo sa community building. Number one, go to the provinces at turuan natin yung mga maliliit na bata, especially the primary schools, na magkaroon sila ng mastery in reading, writing, and arithmetic. Kasi hindi naman talaga nakukuha yan sa ano eh. So we want to teach them, help them, and be able to encourage these students to be able to master these three skills. In the mother tongue, ha? Hindi kasi, kung ipa-English mo sila, kaya nga we rank very low, hindi kaya. So yan, we want to do that, we want to challenge them to help in the building of communities, kung may mga bagyong, kung may mga na tumulong sila. So basically yan, we want to be able to help rebuild the nation.
Sek, ito po yung maaasahan sa isang Abella administration sa loob ng 6 na taon. Pero doon po sa first 100 days, ano po yung pinakauna nyong gagawin?
Yung civil society.
Civil society.
Civil society.
Let them get involved.
Let them get involved. Please get involved. Please get involved. Tsaka yung ating National Volunteer Corps.
Maraming salamat po for joining us. Thank you for your time. Yan po si Presidential Candidate Ernesto Abella. At mga kapatid, abangan pa ang mga susunod na kandidato na haharap dito sa Candidatox, the Presidential Series. Hangad naming matulungan kayong makapili ng karapat-dapat na maging susunod na Pangulo ng Pilipinas.